So I have an interesting experience working with integrity marketing because in my background of working with many different law firms, I've probably been project manager on about 10 different websites where an attorney either had a website or didn't have anything and naturally was in an absolute hurry to get something up and done. And as project manager, it's always been an incredibly frustrating process because you have someone who is more in the design field helping you with the website, and then you have someone like an attorney who usually likes to write their own material. They're very, very conscious of what's being said. They have different compliance issues they have to deal with, and it just becomes this big bottleneck of an issue because you have two sides of a coin that are not communicating and they speak an entirely different language. And literally, I have known some attorneys who have spent years trying to get a website off the ground. And when I was working with the new law firm, they ended up in a situation where the website they had was pulled down. And they were very, very unhappy with the company they were working with. And I was pushing very, very hard to not renew their contract with them because they had never been happy with them. They just weren't a good fit. And I didn't want them by default to be stuck another year with them, with a website they were not happy with and service they weren't happy with. So I had met Integrity Marketing at different events I'd been to. I'd spoken with them, and I suggested that we just talk to them and see what was available. We ended up going with them, and it was absolutely a painless process. And I was expecting it as project leader to be, somewhat painful just because I thought that's the way the process had to be to get a website up. They had a series of questions they asked us about our practice versus expecting us as the non-experts to know what to tell them, which was incredibly useful because that's not our industry. We don't understand websites, so we don't know what to tell you that might be important. So instead, they interviewed us, they asked us, they were very specific in what they needed from us, down to pictures of your office, a picture of each attorney, it needs to be in this kind of file, all the things that I found really slow the process down if you're not on the same page. And from there, again, I was dealing with the issue where we had an attorney who was likely going to want to write or rewrite all of the material. So we suggested, let's just look at what they have as content for the website, and we can always change it later. Let's get something up. She was so absolutely delighted with the material, she didn't change a word. And I think that comes from their expertise of really understanding the estate planning attorney versus someone who does websites for a bunch of different industry types and then is trying to create something for you that really just doesn't speak to your clients. So the content was easy to read from a client perspective and absolutely on point with what we were trying to convey. But the part that I liked the best is that usually, and again, as someone who is in charge of that in the practice, it's very important to me to make sure it works and I look like I'm doing a good job. But usually you get a website up eventually and then it's stagnant. And you have these great ideas that everyone's going to blog, and you have great ideas, you're going to keep the content fresh, but in the day-to-day world of everything happening in a law practice, it just doesn't happen. So we signed on for the Essentials program, and we literally were supplied with blog content 5 days a week. And again, it was in a very systematic, easy to post way. They did training with us online so that we understood what to do, and it was literally plug and play, but in a way that it didn't feel canned and it didn't feel forced. And again, having worked with a lot of different people in the industry and out of the industry, it's absolutely the only time I've ever had that experience.